right. Boom, 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 boom. Hello and welcome to this episode of Marathon State of Mind. We are so excited to bring you a special guest today, someone we have been wanting to talk to for a long time, someone whose journey we've been following closely. No doubt you've been following closely too. Izzi Batt-Doyle, welcome to Marathon State of Mind.
Hi, Izzy.
Thank you, Rory. Thanks, Elsie. Yeah, excited to be here.
So, Izzy, it's a tricky one to know where to start with you because you've done so much
Hmm.
and you're still like you got so much ahead of you as well. And so I think we want to talk about the highs and if there have been any lows you've experienced along the journey, but you've been to I'm going to call it, shall I call it two and a half Olympics? Because you were like Tokyo was 2020 and then it was 2021, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like maybe just like give us a little insight into what that experience was like having an Olympics move for, is it the first time in history an Olympics has been moved?
I think it's the second time.
Second?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, look, it was a whirlwind for me back then, but I was one of the lucky ones who, like, it actually benefited. It was a silver lining for me because I was just in no, I was not in contention to make the team back in 2020. I had two broken feet and was not running going into that year. So it was definitely not on the cards for me until they got moved. So yeah, I was definitely someone that was kind of like lucky from that experience, but it was a very strange experience, like all in all, just going to those games with, obviously no crowds and just all the kind of stresses around it with COVID and travel and that stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a surreal time in history, let alone, performing on the world stage in an empty stadium, and that would have been a foreign experience. Okay, so let's just take a step back and try to bring us in on what like your journey into running has been like. You've achieved so much, obviously at many different distances, right? From the track up to the 10K on the track and then into half marathon and marathon. You just broke the Melbourne Marathon half marathon record.
Hmm.
Not like, was it 2 weeks ago, two and a bit
Yeah,
weeks
yeah,
ago?
must be just over 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's gone quickly.
And so you've had this phenomenal range, right, in terms of your running. But before we go into the journey too much, take us back to where it all began. Like, how did you get into running? And is this something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, I think back to when I first started running, and really my earliest memories were my mum, ran when I was growing up. So did my dad. Like it was, active family. And I guess the first memories for me are doing like, a block run with my mum, and my older sister kind of probably being ahead of us with my stepdad. And I followed my sister out to Little Athletics when I was about 8 years old, and just did the usual. You do everything out there, throw, jump, run, and naturally I liked the running stuff more. And the longer it was, the more comfortable I felt and the more I enjoyed it. But I was definitely not a standout at anything. And yeah, probably only trained a couple of times a week when I was, in school. And I naturally kind of progressed through those years, but I never took it that seriously. Like I made state teams when I was, I think the first one when I was 11 years old for cross country. And really for me, it was just like make the state team, go interstate and, collect your badges for your beanie and like hang out with your friends for a few days and obviously run. My mum would always come to and we'd have a good time. So I think I had a really healthy like entry into the sport. It was very like family focused, like fun, just doing it because you enjoyed it. And obviously the pressure mounted more and more as I did get better. And at that age, making a state team is a big achievement. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I was certainly not winning races. I was just sort of just making a team and really just happy to be there, which I think is probably in hindsight like a really good place to be at that age.
And then a few years later, you obviously, developed as an athlete and
Yeah,
started becoming a national level athlete and had the opportunity to go and study and train and race in the US and go to college in the US. Tell us about that.
yeah, yeah. So I guess like for me, sort of, I remember coming third at a national 3K championship. I think in at the end of year 11, and that was kind of probably a peak moment, of my career there where I started to realize that I could actually be on the podium and I could have opportunities from running, and took it a little bit more seriously. I was still very social at school, which I think is a good thing, and balancing the party lifestyle and academics and running. So definitely had a wholesome school experience, which was good. But I started to realize that a scholarship to America was possible, and I thought that's a really cool thing to do, to go and live in a country and have things paid for and get your degree paid for while you're running. So I think for me, the allure was actually more getting a degree paid for and having a new experience, living somewhere different. I just thought that was really exciting and interesting. I'd watched a lot of Gossip Girl at the time, so I actually got got pulled into. I was like, New York, that sounds great. I had a few schools contact me. I was not a star, like I was, coming top three, top five at some national championships, but I was certainly not, you know, yeah, winning races and setting records. So
Mm.
it wasn't like I had like, amazing schools reaching out to me. I just had options to go places, which felt really exciting for me and for the level that I was at. But I opted to go to a school in New York, which was uh, a good academic school and a great place that I wanted to be at, in New York. I'd been there before and thought that was cool. But once I got there and was there for a year, I realized that it wasn't really a situation where I was going to grow as an athlete outside of where I already was. So when I got there to St. John's, I was already the best on the team. And so it felt like I knew that I was going overseas to try and, have this experience, but also get better as an athlete. And so after a year, once I sort of realized the limitations there, lovely coach, but just didn't really have the ability to take me that next step, I decided that I would look at other options, and I transferred to the University of Washington in my partway through my second year. So yeah, had a really great experience in New York. Like unbelievable to be 18, 19 years old living in New York City, but the running itself too was quite challenging with, minus 17-degree temperatures in the morning and running laps around like a basketball sort of hallway stadium. We didn't even have an indoor track at our university, or running around Central Park and, being absolutely frozen. It was an amazing experience, but yeah, just knew that that wasn't going to progress me in that way. And yeah, definitely. University of Washington certainly did. I got there and I was like eighth best on the team and had so much to learn, and it was very challenging. But overall, a really great experience. And I'm so glad I took that opportunity to go to America, because I think those 5 years over there taught me so much, not only as an athlete, but just as a person in general. And yeah, I really look back on those years as a great part of my life.
Izzy, the since I've known you, you've had such a beautiful relationship with your mum, and you mentioned it earlier, and such a so influenced by family and family connections. And I know that a lot of the sentiment around developing athletes going, moving across the other side of the world to try and better themselves as an athlete is quite challenging, to leave everything that they know and everything that's familiar. Did you find that challenging at the time as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. I still remember standing on a platform saying goodbye to my mum, my stepdad, and just like feeling absolutely gut wrenched, like crying, and just like it was just like the umbilical cord was being cut. It was
Mm.
terrible. But I also knew that, yeah, I knew that it was for the best. And I am very fortunate that my parents had the means to come and visit me too. And I think that's, quite an important thing too. It's not like I was going away for 4 years and I couldn't fly back and they couldn't come and see me. Like I knew that we were going to see each other. I think the longest we went was maybe 6 months, which is still a long time at that age, but
Mm.
it didn't feel like forever. And I knew that we'd be seeing each other. And yeah, it was so hard. I think I did cry probably every day for the first 3 months, but I was really fortunate that I made a really close friend straight away who happened to be my roommate, and we became like best friends. And I think without her, it would have been really challenging, but she kind of felt like she kind of became family to me quite quickly. So having that friendship there really helped me deal with being away from home. And she was American, but she was about as far as you can get from Montana to New York, other side of the country. So we both kind of understood how we felt being away from our family.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, I'm struck by that, Izzy, in that I want to know what was driving you in making those decisions, because I can personally relate to how hard it is to like leave your family, at 18, or move on the other side of the world. And I think you obviously you're weighing up like, okay, why am I doing this? What's that question is front of mind for a long time. I'd love to understand what was driving you at that point. Was it this kind of burning desire to be the best you could be or make the Olympics, or like what was motivating you to make those decisions?
It might sound a bit cliche, but I always felt like I wanted an extraordinary life. And I feel like that was just the first opportunity where I was like, I can have that. Like, this is different to other people around me. Like I felt like it was something that I just couldn't pass up. And at the time, like obviously now a lot of people go to college and it's quite common, but I probably knew two people who'd gone from South Australia. It wasn't, this is over 10, this is 10 years ago. So yeah, it was sort of like it wasn't as accessible or like not I didn't know as many people who were doing it. It was quite scary, but I just wanted to have an exceptional life or like something different. I really didn't want to be like just stay in Adelaide and do my degree and end up not that it's a bad like it's not a bad life, but I sort of was worried about just getting stuck in the same friendship group, just marrying my high school boyfriend. I don't know, and they're not bad things, but I felt like it wasn't that maybe the situation I was in wasn't necessarily like completely true to who I was, and I
Mm.
knew I needed to like spread my wings and do something different to sort of like almost like leave that little bubble. And Adelaide's a city, but it does feel like a small town. At least where I went to school and the circles that I was in. So it kind of felt like escaping that kind of breaking that bubble and escaping and having my own experience in life. So that's what was really driving me at the core of it. But of course, like yeah, degree paid for opportunity to run. I didn't think I'd ever run past those 4 years like competitively. So it was kind of like how cool I get to like almost be a professional runner for like 4 years in college. And then, I get that experience and I've ticked the box and I can move on and, be a normal person. Well, I'm still not a normal person, I
Like
guess.
B21.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the driving force, I think.
And when did you first feel that, like that kind of drive? It's so it sounds such a deep drive to go, I want to live an extraordinary, exceptional life.
Mm.
And there's more, like it's authentic for me to kind of like pursue more. Like what's your first memory of that feeling?
I'm not sure exactly the first memory, but one thing that probably helped in my development of that is I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to go to India when I was 16 years old on like a school pilgrimage. And I spent about, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks in India. No phone, like I think we could call our parents once. It was very like, we worked in orphanages and schools, and it was a really like quite overwhelming and like shocking experience really for a 16-year-old to like walk the streets of Calcutta and like work in a home where the children only have a couple of months or years to live because of their illnesses or whatever. But I think that just really opened my eyes to what was out there. And I found that really hard when I first came back from that trip back into my sort of like school bubble and friends and normal life. I was kind of like, oh my God, but you guys don't realize like what's out there and like all the challenges in the world and the different things that are going on, which I think is probably an experience that a lot of young people like can relate to, just that sort of like, yeah, your world opening up or that sort of thing happening. So probably, yeah, that was quite a pivotal thing for me to sort of open my mind to what was out there and the different things that the world offers.
Yeah, and with that, just to double click quickly, the how much of that is still there for you now, or has your drive changed? How much is it about
Um,
extraordinary life, and pursuing that authentically in the same sort of way?
Yeah, I think that I feel really fortunate that I get to live a life that I feel like is on my own terms. And, again, I'm sensitive that I'm not saying that, I look at people and think that they have a boring life or, unfulfilling. I think the most fulfilling parts of life are, walks with my dog, time sitting in the sun, like time with Riley, with my family. Like it is the simple things in life that are the best. But in saying that, I just love that I get to live a life where I can travel. I don't, necessarily sit at a desk from 9 till 5. Like I'm doing things that I'm pursuing that I feel really passionate about,
Mm.
whether that's, coaching my own running or just, yeah, different things. So yeah, I still really enjoy that part of it. And I don't think I wouldn't change it for the world. Like it's, no amount of money in a different sort of career could pull me away from what I'm doing.
That's brilliant. And yeah, I feel like you've articulated it so clearly that it's not something to apologize for, and that it's you're being authentic, right? And
Mm.
I think that's available to everyone, and everyone's choices are from that are going to be different, right? And so
Definitely.
that's comes through loud and clear, going, hey, this is me and this is
And
what's
and there's also risk that comes with pursuing what you really want to pursue, what you're passionate about, because of course there are, there's the safety of the norm, and at times in my life like I've had to sort of take that risk, and whether that's, we chatted a bit off air before, like dropping out of my second degree, or whatever it is, like when you sort of take on those challenges, you are accepting some form of risk too, that things won't work out perfectly.
yeah. Um, okay, and so there's many directions where I'd like to go at once, but I'll pick one. Um, you mentioned doing things that you're passionate about, and I feel like passion is such a important topic in sport because there's one that there's real nuance around. Like just the other day, I was kind of teaching some students the difference between like being obsessive in your passion versus like harmonious passion, and like the kind of, I guess, all the positive parts of passion that are very important for our performance and well-being and sustainability of that. But then it can tip into this sort of like, oh no, I'm rigid and obsessive, and they're actually different. And so when you talk, I hear harmonious passion. Like
Mm.
I hear, I get to do this. I love things I love to do, and there's many facets to that. Like you're not talking running, running, running. You're talking, various other things around that. So I'd love to hear a bit more about what passion is to you and how you've, I guess, organized your life to be one that is, aligned with and contains a lot of passion.
Yeah, I think probably to like bottle it down, even when I was doing my psychology studies, and down that route, like I would say like my passion is probably like um myself, and then helping others live like a healthy and active and happy life. So like that's quite general, but I get to do that now through my own running, then hopefully inspiring others who see my running, inspire them, and then through my own coaching, and maybe roles where I'm mentoring or dealing with other people within, Runners One, whether it's directly coaching or just at the run house at the shop, or, around the other athletes in our gym too, like just sort of being an influence on them. So I think that's kind of like what I would try and articulate as like my passion, I guess. And that's very broad, like healthy, happy, active,
Mm.
whatever. But I just that's what brings me the most joy, is like um, seeing people engaging in that space, and looking after themselves in that way too. So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah, that's
one of the
good.
things that I mean, it's your why, right? It comes,
Yeah.
this is your why. It's what you value the most. It's
Mhm.
where you find joy, and it's, you find value in helping others through what you do and using that as a vehicle. And it's the first thing that we get to do with athletes that we come alongside through our marathon state of mind course,
Mhm.
and on the platform is finding out your why. And
Yeah,
when you've nailed that, it's so much easier to get through challenges because
definitely.
you know exactly why you're doing it, and that is anchored in something really deep.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
No,
awesome.
what I love about Izzy's is it's about others as well, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of struck that we've had, you know, a, we've gone through this conversation, reasonable way already, and we haven't talked about like winning and outcomes and like PBs
Yeah,
and records and all the things that like it's absolutely you have worked so hard for and you've
Mm.
achieved, and like we could spend hours talking about all of those accolades, but I
thank you.
just
Yeah.
love that, like, in sharing what it's all about for you, you've actually gone to something deeper and something that goes beyond you as well. And I think there's such a
Yeah.
valuable point for people that like, if the authenticity to be yourself and go about things your way with an eye toward how can I help others be,
Mm.
happier, healthier, and live a more active life through that. Like it's just super clear.
Yeah. I think all those accomplishments too, like they're I'm really proud of them, but um they're all just like a byproduct of the process.
Mm,
And
Mm.
like and so like I focus much more, and this isn't even like I don't sit down like really like this is just sort of more like vague, and I guess just how it works in my head. But I'm much more process driven about things. Like I just love training. I love the accomplishment I get from training. I love like the social aspect of it. I love, pushing myself, whatever, every the purpose to my day. I could list so many things, but then the accomplishments come just from like the consistency of actually just doing that and then like having a good attitude and actually enjoying it. So I think that's really healthy because, I do think that I'm quite a consistent performer and I don't have many like let's say bad days or bad performances. But if I do have them, which, do occur sometimes, I can move on pretty quickly because it's like, well, that doesn't define me. And also, that's just like, well, I just get back to doing what I normally do, which is just the
Mm.
process and just enjoying it. And it's kind of like just you go back to the cycle.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
also, again, it can be problematic because sometimes I don't celebrate the achievements maybe as much as I should because I'm just okay straight back to the process and enjoying what I'm doing and it's just like continue. But I think it's a good way of living because you never really get too high or too low.
Mm.
It was actually my going to be my next question is how do you protect your love for running amidst the performance pressures? I know a lot of
Mhm.
athletes and myself included have, like really fought with that tension over the years of like, how do I protect this like deep love for what, for the feeling of running and
Mhm.
the all of those feelings that it gives us amongst the expectation and the pressure. And what
Mhm.
I'm hearing from you is just coming back, bring it back to step by step. What's the next thing? What's the next best thing that I need to do? And, the process, as you say.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I have to say that like Riley's been really helpful with me for that mindset. Like he's someone who's very even, and naturally I probably am someone who goes up and down a bit more, but he helps me be a lot more level because like it's not like he doesn't celebrate my success or, wallow with me in the lows, but he just always stays quite even. So it helps me also stay even. And I think just because we have a very supportive community around us and there's always something we're always on to the next thing. So there's never too much time to really worry about if something doesn't go perfectly because you just move on to the next thing.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it comes back to I guess that anchor of just loving running. But it's an interesting topic because when I first like back in 2021, I first got my first professional contract with ASICS, like my mum said to me, she was really worried. She was like, "This is your hobby. This is your love. Like this is your passion. Like what if this changes it for you because you're going to get paid a little bit of money or it's going to change in your mindset about like oh I have to do this or I need to do this to to earn some money or it changes the way you think about it and of course naturally you do go through periods where you might think about things for certain reasons and you kind of have to pull yourself back and just
Mm.
try and refocus on your why and come back to the grounding anchorage of it. And it gets complicated when it does become your full-time job and you do actually need to make choices that are, financially reasoning and different things that come into it. But yeah, it is definitely interesting and it is a hard balance to when your passion or your hobby turns into something that then becomes work for you because that's not just in running, that can be in a lot of aspects too.
Well, totally. And it makes me think of the difference, which I think we're better off to look at passion as something you bring to what you do, as opposed to
Mm.
something you find in the activity.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
And
love that.
what I
Yeah.
hear from you is like, oh, I love the process. Like I bring
Yes.
passion to training, to my like
Yeah.
Tuesday session or whatever, like the
Yeah.
things you do regularly, you're bringing passion
Yeah.
as opposed to going, oh, it's only found in the activity and
Mhm.
it's sort of out of my control. I feel like you're really owning your passion in that way. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, it does for sure. I really like that way of looking at it.
Because then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter what it's like, you know, if I'm ever talking about career decisions and stuff for people, which I don't do that much, but every now and then, is like I'm always like, you know what, I actually think it's more important to think about how you want to be whilst doing what you do
Mhm.
than getting
What are you
too
doing?
caught up in what I'm doing. Because you can have the same thing running, say, and you can go about it being like, oh, I've got to do that session today. I need to hit the splits, and
Mm.
that's not an enjoyable experience versus going, oh, I get to go and like work out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just this little framing that I think can make a big
Yeah.
difference for people.
Huge difference. Yeah, definitely.
Just while we're on the topic, Izzy, I want to, one thing that we're always talking about in our program and podcast is about how we think about what success is. And I'm always fascinated in what different individuals' definitions of success are. And I've kind of heard a few clues from you so far, but I'd love to throw it to you and ask, like, when you think about what success is for you on your own terms, what comes to mind?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. I think one thing is like on that given day, like did I give everything I had? and then if I say yes, then it's like success regardless of the outcome. But I think deep down, like I know if I like I can be honest with myself, and I know if I've really given everything to a performance, to a race. Um, but I would say like overall arching in like a longer view, for me, success looks like self-improvement. So
Mm.
like am I getting better? It doesn't matter if am I getting better versus someone else, or like I'm not measuring my progress off of someone else's improvement or whatever. It's like, am I improving? Like, did I get better than I was last year or last time I did that race, or did I learn something? Maybe it wasn't even like improvement in the time, but it's like, did I execute that better? Like, I just think, yeah, I'm much more internal.
Mm.
And again, this can be a challenge for me because I feel like naturally I am more just like competitive with myself. And I have to almost like force myself to be competitive with like other people or competitors. Um, it comes out naturally a little bit when you're vying for spots on teams, or prize money, or line honors or course records. But I think that at the core of it, it's like I mark myself much more on my own internal, drive, and that, yeah, that marker of self-improvement probably is the main thing for success.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's brilliant. And like this, that's so aligned with best practice in psychology, right? I hear growth mindset, this orientation.
Yeah,
Oh, well, I actually hear like effort, like, was that honestly my best effort? And,
yeah,
am I improving? And your commitment to the process and love of the process helps you to kind of stay oriented towards that.
mm.
And then the outcomes are byproduct that are almost inevitable, along the way to go, well, if I'm improving and if I'm putting in good effort regularly, then,
Mm.
the
Yeah,
rewards are going to be there. But
yeah,
it's growth mindset, that belief that your effort, with effort, you can improve. And I just feel
yeah.
your story is such a testament to the power of that, especially hearing
Thank you.
how you orient your thinking and your days around,
Yeah. I think
around that.
other than self-improvement, it's just consistency too is a really big one for me.
Mm.
I'd prefer to be I'd prefer to be consistent across the year than have one really great performance but be lost for 6 months
Mm,
because of injury or burnout or um, whatever other reason. So yeah, for me, consistency is a really big one, and that's not just consistency in like performances, but consistency in training and just
mm,
um, yeah, I really sort of thrive off routine and just. Some people can say, "Oh, you should take a break," but like I really enjoy routine. I really enjoy, obviously the social aspect of that routine too. And so consistency for me, I think, is a big word.
mm,
That means a lot for me.
Yeah, you are so consistent in your attitude. When I've had the privilege and the pleasure of, we've trained together over the years, you managed to bring a really consistently good attitude to
Thank
training. And
you.
it helped, honestly, it lifts
Yeah,
everyone else up. Um,
yeah.
hey, you mentioned before about doing a psychology degree, and you even started your master's in psychology back in 2021. What I want to know, what did you learn about, did you get the opportunity to reflect on how you see mindset from a performance standpoint when you were going through your study?
mm.
Like, did it change the way you approached running and performance and, even like how you got yourself up for races and training and things like
Yeah. I think definitely one of the big things for me was I did my honors thesis on mindfulness, on like the area of mindfulness. And so that was sort of like a newer thing for me to learn about and something I really deep dove into. And so obviously in uni, like you learn a lot, you take in a lot of content, you learn stuff for exams and projects, and you kind of like sometimes it stays in your brain, sometimes it filters out. But with the honors thesis, because I spent 2 years like doing that research and study in that area, I felt quite I got quite deep into the mindfulness stuff. So I it wasn't like I sat there and like meditated or like did anything really methodical, but I think I just started to incorporate the things I learned from the research and reading books and all that stuff in that area into my sort of daily life and training. And I think I became just more like mindful in general. And then obviously that naturally filtered then into my training and running. And in that period of time, I had 2 years where I had 7 stress fractures in my feet. So I spent a lot of time injured and cross training a lot. And so I'd spend like hours on the elliptical and the pool or doing really mundane foot and ankle rehab. So I think that the that mindfulness aspect played a big role into actually just dealing with those injuries and dealing with the time out from running,
Mm.
and then dealing with the challenging return back into running too. So yeah, I think it definitely shaped the way that I um, view performance and running and pain and
Mm.
tolerance and all those things, but in quite an organic, I guess,
Mm.
way where it just kind of like naturally came into my life.
That's cool. Do you remember the title of your honors thesis?
It was like, can a 5 minute mindfulness um, intervention like improve XYZ factors?
Yeah. And what did you
Yeah.
find?
Yeah, pretty much. Like we just did the very basic like mindfulness exercise at the start of like my advisor. Um, she was a lecturer in psychology, so she would like we would run this like mindfulness at the start of some lectures, and obviously not in some other ones of
Mm.
hers. And then we just did a bunch of you know tests across a whole different range of variables, and just found that just doing that at the start of each class, um, yeah, just everything, all the markers went up
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that group
great.
versus not. But obviously, it's a very small. I can't remember how many students we had go through, like quite like a few hundred, but it is, only a small study with other variables that you can't control, of course, naturally. And I would have loved to do something a bit more focused in sport, but
Mm.
that's just what I had access to at the time, and it was still really interesting. It's something that I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's why I wanted to know what the title was and where you.
Yeah, yeah.
They're always so. I feel like honors projects are always so fun because they're like because you don't have all that long to do it. You kind of have to pick something super specific
Yeah.
and just look at that. And so there's always something fascinating there. What's your just while we're on the topic of mindfulness? You mentioned how like organically just being in that doing that research and being
Mhm.
in that space probably helps with things like your relationship to pain and to injury and to like, how do you think about mindfulness as an athlete now? Like, it doesn't have to be exactly the way the literature talk about it, but like, how have you practically gone and utilized mindfulness in your running?
Yeah, I try and think about like, yeah, not worrying about the past or the future, and just trying to stay more in the present and like make the most of opportunities, make the most of like the experience that you're in, and not be like caught up in what's already happened or what could happen in the future. That's probably one of the biggest things for me. Um, I would say, and also just being like quite grateful and enjoying the experiences, because knowing that they're fleeting, and knowing that you may not have that opportunity again.
Mm.
I guess that's a big part of it, but yeah, that's probably what I could boil it down to.
Yeah, brilliant. Be in the present moment, knowing that that's all there is. And
Yeah.
um,
One big thing I also focus on, and it actually came from my college coach, Marisa, who was my coach just for the last year in college. She always said, like, the only two things you can control are your attitude and your effort, and everything else is like variables that you just can't control. So you can't, there's no point stressing over them. And I think that that's just a very easy and clear way of looking at things and being like, okay, all I can control is my attitude, my effort, the weather, other people, my competitors, like,
yeah,
you know, how I feel that morning, the food that's available. Like they're all things that you can't really control. Like maybe a little bit you can control, but really, if you just focus on those two things and you nail them, then that's what you can do. So why worry about anything else?
I love that
Yeah.
because if we go back to your definition of success, it's like attitude and effort. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like it's
yeah,
so aligned with what you're all about.
Yeah.
Going, what, I can control these things and I'm going to master them. I'm going to
Mm.
like
yeah,
focus on growth through,
yeah.
bringing my best effort and
Mhm.
going a
And
bit.
that's why like I'm the most upset with myself if I actually feel like I had my attitude was a bit off or my effort wasn't 100%, because that really hurts me deep down inside. It's like I don't really care what other people think about it, but it's like if I know that I
Mm.
didn't actually execute on those two things, it feels like a bit of a failure.
Yeah.
Can I just ask? I know it probably doesn't happen very often, but the times where you have felt that, what gets in the way? Like what stops you, or what sort of a barrier for you in terms of being able to, access that best effort on a given day?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad that the one bad performance I feel like I had, well, I say bad, like I came third at Melbourne half last year and I was really disappointed in myself because I felt like it was a race that I kind of like I feel like I kind of lost the race versus like got beaten. And two phenomenal athletes ahead of me, but it just felt like I know that I lapsed
Mm,
mentally at a point in a race where I usually am strong. And I can't be too hard on myself because I actually had food poisoning the night before. So I woke up quite ill and sometimes things just
mm,
are a bit out of your control. But I walked away from that really annoyed at myself just because I knew that I kind of like gave up, so to speak,
mm.
in my head a bit. But there probably were other factors that were like physically forcing me to give up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one because obviously you can't fight some things that happen. Um, but yeah, I think that occasionally in a race, like y- I just don't, you don't have the desire to go all the way to the well, and you
Mm,
just don't have the sort of mental reserves to really finish off the job.
mm,
But if that happens, and it happened a couple of times overseas this year too, racing when I was doing like 5K races, and I think normally it's just a sign that like you've raced too much or you're overtrained or something's not right, like you need more sleep, your cortisol's high. Like
mm.
if you don't have the ability to actually sort of like go, and rinse yourself in a race, it's probably just like yeah, you're probably just overdoing it, to be honest, unless it's some other factor like you're sick or something.
That
Yeah.
is that's so, I think, helpful to people to hear that, because what do people mostly do if they have that experience?
Go harder.
They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I like let
No.
myself down. I didn't push hard enough.
Yeah.
Push myself harder.
It's
Right?
always, I think it's always a sign that something is off, whether it's your iron's low or like you've just underslept or yeah, so
Yeah.
many different factors like that. But it's usually a warning sign, or like, you might be in low energy availability, you're not eating enough, not getting
Mm.
enough carbs, not recovering enough. It's definitely a sign to pull back on something. But naturally that's when we want to push and punish ourselves.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's, it is human nature, but it is very it's a skill to create space between you and the performance or you and the result and take a step back and actually look at it really pragmatically and go, oh, hang on. No, there's these factors that
Mm.
are involved as well. And like, I'm not a bad athlete.
Yeah,
I'm not,
yes.
I just didn't have it today, but
Yeah.
next time.
And we're not robots. Like,
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
you're not just programmed to show up and just like things happen, stuff gets in the way. Like
Yeah.
it's it's certainly not something you can just like yeah assume is just going to automatically program itself. Like you do have to do all the steps and things have to be going well physically and mentally for you to have like the performance that you sort of are like you know that you should have, I guess.
Mm.
So, Izzy, you mentioned, in the Melbourne half that there was a moment where, you would normally be stronger. Like when Izzy Batt-Doyle has a great day,
Mm.
what does that look like? When you're at your best and your mindset is like you are on fire and you are just firing on all cylinders, like what does that look like to you?
For me, that's just like much focusing on myself a lot more. And it's like not really worrying about other people or what they're doing. It's just like just doing what I know is best for me. And
Mm.
so that's probably why like the roads do tend to suit me better, not just physically but mentally, because I just like to be more focused on myself and just executing what I need to do, and not so caught up in like tactics or like other people like trying to like play moves or like figure out what people are doing, which obviously is an element of racing. You have to have that at some stages in championship stuff, definitely. But yeah, when I'm going well, it's like I'm just focusing myself. Like I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling ready to go. Like I want to sort of like show the training that I've been putting in, and usually for me that's like going hard from the gun and just like holding it. It's not waiting around and seeing what other people are going to do. It's just like running my race, and yeah, naturally that is just like going hard at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you've done that
Yeah.
so much in the last 12 months. I saw it at
Yeah.
City to Bay and I just see the result and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
she run by 90
Yeah.
seconds or 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she really went for it.
Yeah.
She sent it, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's this
That is
like,
that's the mindset I'm thinking. I'm like, I'm
well,
sending it.
that's, you know,
I'm
that's
taking
what
no
I,
prisoners.
yeah, that's what I've like, obviously I'm in Sydney, you're in Adelaide, but just looking at, from an outsider, I guess, looking in, but knowing you for as long as I have, there's this sense of belief that is like, I don't know, that's just grown in the last probably 12 to 18 months, like that you've just grown into this like
Mm.
another level of belief. Like, is that true?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot more belief in myself. I'm not exactly sure when it started, but I think like probably after that Valencia first marathon was like, oh, okay, I am, pretty good. And then it was kind of like probably pretty good.
I just ran
Like, yeah.
2:23. Yeah, like I might be all right.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, I think after Budapest, I was so like, I was not sure if I like was able to handle it. Um, but yeah, I think probably also coming back to the track and like being able to make Paris in the track, that probably showed me that like, and it wasn't like against anyone, but it was like for me to like to not be peaked in the marathon and then to be able to come back and still qualify in the track. It was kind of like, yeah, I can do that. Like, and I think from there my confidence grew because it wasn't something that I thought that I could do again is make the Olympics in the track. And then when I got so close to making the final of the Olympics by, half a second in one place, that again too, I think that actually probably was even more of a pivotal moment. It was like I just almost made the final in the 5K, which is not even in my head my event. Like,
Mm,
um, so yeah, I think from there, while it was really disappointing to miss that final because I got so close, it really fired me up to be like, I'm gonna race my way. I'm not gonna race races to like race the race. I'm gonna race like my way, and
mm,
I'm gonna like do what I want to do. And then I think like that's when I came home, ran City to Bay course record at the time, broke the 10K record for the first time, and then went on to run, um, like a decent marathon in Valencia and sort of the half marathon record in February. So I think that really probably set the trajectory up for that belief. It was like I'm almost made the final at the Olympics in this event. That's not even my event. Like, okay, like I am good. Like, and maybe that comes from the fact of like I'll be honest that I've never thought of myself as someone who's very talented. I've always thought after someone that's worked hard. And my sister was the talented one. Like she was the one who won races and, won nationals as a junior. And I was just someone who was just there and worked hard and stuck at it. And, I'm still here because everyone else stopped running.
mm,
Or like,
Yeah.
like I'm from the juniors at least, but you have to accept at some stage, okay, yes, I do have some talent too. And it's a combination of the talent and the hard work that comes
Mm.
together.
That's
mm.
really insightful. Um, it's such a, it's a little bit of a younger sibling thing too. I relate to
Yeah.
as the second sibling being like, they're so talented, but I
Mhm.
can work harder. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
let me do that.
Yeah.
But what I found fascinating about what you just shared, is I've been watching from the outside and I've like felt like I've loved watching you run your own way,
Mm.
even when it hasn't worked out as a result. I remember like a couple of races, like track races come to mind, being like, oh, you led off the front and set the pace, and then people kick at the end and, get up higher places. And I'm like, I want Izzy to know how much as a fan, I actually appreciate watching that
Mm.
Thank you.
because it's two things. It's like, going and doing it your way and backing yourself to just do that, independent of, what that actually ends up with. But like almost giving yourself permission to kind of live your way. And secondly, it's not being held back by like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Or what are they doing? Or, like, what does this person think I should do? It's just
Mm.
this real ownership of like, this is me, these are my strengths. I'm going to go and bring those. And I'm not defined by what that leads to or whether that people
Mm.
think that was right or wrong. It's actually what I think based on my effort. And did
Mhm.
I give that my best possible crack? And so
Yeah.
that comes through like when I watched you run, I'm like, oh, I wish like more people would give themselves would think
Oh,
about it that way.
yeah.
You know,
Thank you. I
it
appreciate
does-
that.
yeah, it does come through. And so that's why I was like, oh, it's interesting to hear you say that. It's interesting to hear you say like I'm sort of a little bit surprised at actually how recent it was that you were like, you know what, I'm going to really double down on
I
this.
feel like
It's
yeah,
been
I have always
so,
done it on the track, like
yeah.
domestically, but then you kind of go overseas or
Mm.
you like get into a race where there are people better than you and you feel like
Yeah.
like you can't do it. But I take the idea that like I'd prefer to try and sort of fail than not try at all.
Yeah.
That feels like more of a failure than not trying feels like more of of a failure. And maybe failure is not the right word, but yeah, I just try. I'd prefer just to try and see what happens,
Mm.
and I'm okay with it not working out. And especially now that I've kind of like, I do have I do feel like because I have the range across distances, people don't just see me as a track runner or a 5K
Mm.
runner anymore. So it's like I feel like I always have this permission, not permission, but like
Mm.
it's like, well, yeah, you just like whatever, give it a crack because it doesn't really matter. Like,
Yeah.
but even if I was just a 5K runner, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I love that, Izzy, because it not only does it give yourself permission, but for others watching, it gives them permission to do the same and go,
Yeah.
well, I'm just going to go out and have a crack.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's way
remember
more
being
exciting.
Yeah.
the night before or the day before Valencia that we all ran when we were all vying to make Paris. We were talking about the pace groups, and there was 223 pace group and a
Mhm.
225, I think, pace group. Oh no, so it was 223 and a 226.
Mm.
And the qualifying time was 226:30,
Yeah, 50.
something like that.
Yeah.
And and you were like, I'm going with 223. There was no
Yeah.
question. And we were all like,
Yeah.
well, okay. Okay, well, if you're going with 223, then we have to have a go,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And it was just,
Yeah.
it allowed your courage in that moment, allowed everyone else to go, well,
Why
I'm
not?
just going to believe that could be also my day. As
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
cool.
That's gold because I just want to like put a pin in the fact that you said that the day before Valencia Marathon, and like a few minutes ago in this conversation, you said after that you're like, oh, maybe I am good.
Yeah.
So you even like it's wild to me because I'm looking at that like, oh, how good's Izzy?
Yeah,
Long before
yeah.
that. But the
Oh.
point being, you still, even if you hadn't had that many, like it was your third marathon, am I right in thinking?
Yeah, it's my third marathon.
Third
Yeah,
marathon?
yeah. Fourth,
And
sorry, fourth actually,
fourth.
fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'd had a really positive start. Like your first one was Melbourne. Let's
Yeah,
just take
debut.
stock.
Yeah.
Debut in Melbourne,
Yeah.
time the fastest debut by.
Yeah. And I
And
did Nagoya, which is a little bit faster, 227.
yeah. And then what was
And
number
then Budapest,
Budapest,
Budapest, which was awful. Like
55
I ran
degrees.
Yes.
237, it was 35 degrees, and I was in a medical tent for 3 hours with my top
Yes.
off,
Oof.
getting an ECG.
This
It's
is
a
Bit
very
visual.
interesting experience.
that's actually the reason I wanted to take stock of the three because you'd come off that third one that was like a
Mhm.
really heavy experience, right?
Mm.
Like for
Yeah,
being in those conditions, like that's wild. So you had your most recent experience was like, okay, that's what
bad.
it can be like. Yet the day before, you're like, well, I'm going 3:33 pace, like,
Yeah,
and so there's
yeah,
something in you that still had the freedom to go, oh yeah, I'm going there. I'd rather
yeah.
go
Take a
out
swing.
for it. And does that come back to what you were saying before about your definition of, I like to talk about definition of success and failure because I think
Mm,
sometimes our definition of failure holds us back. And it
Mm.
sounds to me
yeah,
like yours is just like the inverse of your definition of success, and that it's like, well, not putting in the effort that you know you're capable of is
exactly.
the outcome's
Yeah,
actually not the failure. It's was that
yeah,
the effort?
Mm.
Um,
yeah.
did that help you kind of have that freedom to go, I'm
I
going
think
to,
it does definitely. I think one thing actually in that build that really helped me is I was just doing the training and I'd committed to being overseas for 4 months before it because I'd been away for World Champs and Nick said I had to stay overseas if I wanted to do Valencia um and I'd been training a little bit with Charlotte Purdy and she had run to 23. She'd run 222 actually in Berlin that year. Was that right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And she was like telling me, "Oh, you're definitely like 100% in like under 224 shape." And I was
mm,
like, "Am I really?" And then
Yeah.
like her partner Clarky was like, "Oh, definitely like." And you got to Valencia, like definitely. And they were kind of like
cool.
they helped me believe myself too because they were
Mm.
seeing me train and they were like 100% you are. And I was like, oh, okay. So then my expectations kind of like crept forward because they believed in me too. And they'd actually seen the work and seen me in training. And then
Mm.
and to me they had more experience because Charlotte was a marathoner and she'd done more marathons. And
Yeah.
for them to kind of tell me that they thought that I was in that shape from the training that we were doing together, then that gave me the belief
Mm.
to sort of aim higher.
Charlotte's so good for that. I remember getting to
Yeah.
London Marathon before my first one, and I open up my training diary. I'm like, all right, Charlotte, what can I run? What
Yeah.
pace am I going out at?
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
you can easily run this. And then, of course,
Yeah.
she was right because she has so much
Yeah.
experience. And,
Mm.
it just helps being able to speak to someone else about who's gone through almost very similar training, very very similar build, and
Mhm.
then she's had all of these races, all of these marathon experiences, and she's bang on the money going
Yeah, it's funny because I started to give her
easily.
advice now too, because she's had a couple of years where she hasn't been racing as much. And now I'm the one giving her
Yeah,
advice. I'm like, come on, Charlotte.
so
Yeah.
good.
But she'll be back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Um, what I love about that example is there's like we talked about in a recent podcast about the power of language and how we speak to people and how we speak to ourselves. And I can hear in that example just the value of positive words from others, and self-efficacy theory. The theory of self-efficacy is all about like one of the paths to improving confidence is verbal persuasion, like people
Mhm.
going, hey, no, you can definitely do that. Like
Yeah,
that actually boosts your confidence, but you have to kind of allow it to as well. And so I feel
definitely.
like your example is a great one for going, yeah, like people were telling you, but you actually still internalized it and gave yourself permission to go, okay, what if they're right? Let's go find out.
Yeah, yeah.
Just quickly on the topic of confidence, what does it sound like? What does positive self-talk sound like for you? Like, are you someone who like speaks to themselves like consciously, or is it sort of a quiet thing? Like,
I used to be someone who was like really into like mantras. So I'd sort of like have one mantra for a race that I'd like really come back to. And I'd be like, saying it to myself beforehand, I'd write it down, or
mm,
I'd kind of like, that's what I'd sort of come back to when it got hard in the race. But I think now, like, I do feel that confidence just from, um, I guess, continued like evidence in performances and training. So I feel like there's less of this talk to kind of hype myself up now because like I just draw on the actual evidence of my training or the previous races to sort of go and execute what I need to go and do. It's not
Mm.
as like hypey and like, come on, like think of this thing when it gets tough
mm,
because I'm really just going out there and like not doing what I know I can do.
Yeah.
Um, so if that makes sense. But I definitely still like I do believe positive self-talk is really important, and especially if you get those negative voices creeping in, which inevitably happens. But it's very simple, like language, like "Come on, Izzy, like you can do this," or like "Be strong." It's just like very simple self-talk now. It's not anything too structured.
yeah, great. And you're hitting on so many great psychology points, unsurprisingly today.
Yeah.
But like evidence, you mentioned evidence, like it's having
Yeah.
evidence to know that we can do hard things and
Mm.
like,
Yes.
but and taking stock of that. So I think one thing people can do is like it can be really useful to actually go and look at the evidence.
Mm.
Like make,
Mm.
if you are unsure, just be like, oh, like Eloise said before, like here's my training. Like let's actually go,
Yes.
oh, look at what I did. Like, wow, I've done all of
Yeah.
this. So I
I
think,
like looking back at my if it is like a really, really big race, like a marathon, I do like looking back at my training and just sort of like being like, yeah, yeah, wow, okay, did those weeks. Yep,
Yeah.
like
This is really
that's in the
easy to
legs.
get. Like you kind
Yeah,
of get it
definitely.
done, and it almost does feel a bit robotic sometimes. And you recover,
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, what's
move
next?
on. Yeah,
When you look back, you're like, oh wow, I did 4x5K
yeah,
marathon.
yeah,
Okay, so it's
exactly.
big workouts and 2.5 hours, and
Mhm.
it was
Yeah,
the back-to-back weeks is important to go back and look at.
yeah.
definitely.
Um, I'm conscious of your time, Izzy, but there's one big thing that I want to make talk about. We've talked so much about your experiences and we've talked about how you've navigated those. I want to look at the future a little bit, like what's exciting you about what's coming up, or when you think about what's ahead for you and, running life, etc. Like what's exciting you?
Well, I'm really excited because I just turned 30 and I feel like with the evidence that I've seen from the other women, especially in Australia in the marathon, I do feel like I've got a long time ahead of me, like a decade ahead of me of running. So like kudos to those ladies, yourself included, Elsie, like showing me like, every time that you keep running and doing well, it's like it shows me that there's another few years down the track for me. And
Another
so yeah,
decade, let's
yeah,
say.
yeah, another decade. Yeah, so I feel really excited about that. And that helps me stay like not stressed or like feel like I have to achieve everything all at once,
Mm.
because I know I've got a long career. And it also helps me stay quite grounded because um, like I know that there'll be plenty of ups and downs in the next decade to come. So I can't get too caught up on any one thing. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. Like I've got Valencia Marathon again for the third time in less than 6 weeks. And I feel like everyone keeps asking me, oh, when are you leaving? And I literally feel like I've just started training for it. Like, because I did my first like big week last week. I'm like, I just started training. Like, I'm not leaving yet. But it actually only is a month till I go away, and it'll come around quickly. But that's exciting. Like I feel like I didn't perform as well as I wanted to last December. I had a close friend pass away, and I also like just had some issues with the prototype shoes I wore, and it just kind of all felt like a bit of a disaster and not the right time to be like putting myself through that. But I also still walked away with a personal best. So I feel like there's a lot of upside to that in the sense of this year, if but everything goes right, which is hard in a marathon. Things inevitably don't always go perfectly, but there's still room to improve there in that space. So yeah, I'm really excited about that race and really pouring all my energy into training for that at the moment. Um, and then yeah, I'm just excited about having a year next year where I'm not trying to qualify for a championships. Pretty much my whole professional career has been since 2021. There's been championships every year that I've been trying to qualify for. So that added stress of just like you're trying to improve, but you're also trying to pick the right races so that you can qualify for the championship. And you don't really know what you're doing until you make the championship. And then if you don't make the championship, then you have to change it. It's like it's all kind of up in the air. Whereas
Yeah,
next year, I'm not really planning to do any track next year. Just might do, a handful of marathons and road races, and that really excites me to kind of test myself out a bit more. In a few marathons, maybe do my first major. We'll see what's available to me next year. So yeah, that's really exciting. And yeah, I just got engaged.
woo.
Riley and I, yeah, and then we bought our first house early in the year. So I'm really enjoying just like sort of finding my feet in my own home and with my dog Rufus. So yeah, life's pretty good at the moment. I feel very grateful and yeah, really excited about the future and yeah, lots more running ahead. But again, outside of my own running, like we've just opened a little gym across the road from the run house. We've got a really great group of of people training in the group. My training partner Adam Goddard just won his first national title at Burnie in the 10K.
So
Um,
good.
and so yeah, he feels like a little brother to me. So seeing his success, three wins in a row, has been really exciting. Yeah, so there's a lot of good things going on, and yeah, I feel like I'm in a really good place.
Yeah, love
Great.
it. Things we love to
Yeah.
hear.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. It's been fascinating to talk to you. And, my takeaways of, and there's so many, but the things that really jumped out to me are just how authentic you are and how like much you've organized your life from a real like an internal drive. You got this internal compass of what you're all about, what's important to you, how you want to be, and what an extraordinary life looks like, and what success looks like to you. And you kind of been navigating from, the various decisions like college and changing colleges. Like that's courageous, right? I reckon
Mhm.
if anything, like,
Mm.
moving away and then changing colleges and sort of doing all of that, like that's the authenticity seems to have helped you to kind of live really courageously and make decisions that line up with what you're all about. And then seeing that kind of shape into the experiences you've had, obviously, running at two Olympics, but then beyond that, the incredible success you've had on the roads around the world is, I think, a real testament to the fact that you're actually loving the process. You're focused on what you can control. You're defining success based on effort and attitude, and you're kind of going about it on your own terms, in your own way,
Mm.
and with this always with an eye to how can I do that and make a difference through it. And
Mm.
I think it's no surprise that you are like the queen of consistency because like
Thank you.
I think the consistency comes from just having such a consistency internally in how
Mm.
you go about
Mhm.
it. and what you focus on. And I think it's evident that it's helped you to navigate the challenges, move on, when things don't go to plan, to adjust well and kind of make the best, and always be learning and growing and building your confidence. And I'm like, oh, you're just getting started, because
Thanks.
like, I feel like you're in this place where you're so clear, and you've got given yourself such permission to go and be yourself and do it your way. I'm like, oh, look out. Good things are coming,
Yeah.
are going to continue to come from that. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, it's good. I feel happy. I think one other thing which we didn't really touch on is like as a professional runner, it's so amazing to be doing like what I do, but I also think it's really helpful that I have other stuff going in my life in work stuff too. And I think it's almost like a life hack. Like it's a downside of being too busy sometimes, but I think having that value
mm,
in so many areas just helps so much to be able to manage that. So it's funny you bring up all those different words, and I'm remembering now that when I was really into my psychology kind of stuff,
mm,
and I had to, I was thinking about my values. My three values that I would always write, what I wrote down in this journal years ago, were growth, authenticity, and passion. And it
Ah,
really actually, I'm just remembering that now, but now that you're like sort of recapping stuff. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That actually is my three values that I said that were really important in my journal 10 years ago.
that's so
but
cool.
but see,
Yeah.
what I love, thanks so much for sharing that, because what I love about it is when it's so core to you, and you're so deliberate, or not deliberate, but you're so consistent in being directed by it. Sometimes you're not
You
even
kind of forget it. Yeah,
Yeah, you're like,
exactly.
oh, that's
Yeah.
right. I'm coming from that place. But
Yeah.
from the outside, from
Mm.
us hearing you talk and
I'm glad it
seeing how
comes
you've
through.
gone out, it's just super obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, those words, like
That's
you can
cool.
almost guess them once you hear
Yeah.
about your journey,
I
because
don't really do any journaling and stuff anymore, but I just remember when I had one of those journals where it's like, you write your three values, and they were
yeah,
my like top three, like
Your
yes,
diary.
that's cool. Dear
it's
diary.
a great practice, because it gives you this compass or the steering wheel to navigate, and to ensure that you go through life in a way that is authentic. So,
Mm.
the other word that I actually forgot to mention was grateful. I feel like that's really come
Yeah,
through
that's a
in
good
how
word.
you
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
That's an
And
important one.
yeah, it's I get to do this. Like, oh,
Yeah. When you're grateful, I think you enjoy things so much more
yeah,
Yeah.
with
Well,
it
you're
with a grateful attitude.
looking through life with a lens of optimism, really.
Yes.
yeah.
Glass half full.
Mm.
Yeah. So much,
Cool.
so much to learn from you. And again, thanks so much for being with us on Marathon State of Mind today.
Thank you. I
Good
appreciate
chat,
it. Love
Izzy.
love coming on, and yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and it's a great space for people to learn more about their mindset and to especially conquer those marathon demons too.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Izzy. And we
Thanks. All
look
right.
forward
Talk
to
soon.
following up part two sometime.
Cheers.
Yeah, sounds
Bye.
good.
Thanks.
See ya.